Hello and welcome back to Crimson Gun Gaming. We were talking about in the last video AMD processors and second-hand stuff, and I was talking about how I see the kind of price war shaping up. Let's say we get these 4 cores, 8 threads setups, even just a regular 4-core processor. If they're better than the i3 in terms of single core performance at around £100, you're looking at really great value. And the fact that you've got the AM4 board already ready to upgrade the chip, you've got that backup that you can go, I'm going to go for the cheap setup, I'm going to go for the motherboard that can overclock so I can get a little bit more out of the chip. I can learn a bit more about the chip because it's more disposable. It's not as expensive as going for that £320 processor and being, I don't want to overclock that because I'm worried about it. Because I've got an i7 in there, right? In the system I've got. And I'm a bit worried about overclocking. I don't know anything about overclocking, so I'm not going to go and overclock a £200 chip. But maybe if they have one that's 80 quid and you can just get in the bottom end of the AMD lineup, you get your 4 cores, you've got the basic setup that you need for video gaming, you go and get yourself a cheap graphics card that doesn't really require much. You've got the room to upgrade. And I don't really feel like we've had that before. I know that these dual core processors have really great reviews on YouTube, but I just don't think that it's worth spending that money and not just going up to the i3, where actually 4 cores without the extra hyperthreading is good enough right now for pretty much everything. And when you need the extra processor, you only have to replace the processor. You're not getting rid of the motherboard, you're not getting rid of everything else that goes with the system. It's not additional expense, it's already ready to go. And I think if you've done a little bit of overclocking, you probably would have upgraded at some point to a better cooler. So the only thing you'd really be pushing for as you upgrade your PC from maybe year to year is the chip. Now, if you look at the AM4 lineup from that perspective, from the scaling of a 4-core processor with no hyperthreading all the way up to an 8-core processor with 16 threads, you've got this kind of durability, not necessarily, I would say, invincibility to the updates to the systems, but if Coffee Lake is coming and it's going to be 6-core 12 threads, I think what we can say is likely to be the case soon is that 6 cores is going to be the mainstream stuff. You want to play a game at, I don't know, 2K or 4K or even 1080p with like all the jingly jangly good things on, you're going to need to have 6 cores or 12 threads, for instance. And maybe the i7 that I've got now on my PC will be like the basic minimum that you need for these new games that are coming out. Now, if that's where we end up, you've got that 4-core processor. Chuck it out, trade it in, buy whatever extra peripherally bit you want from CEX, because I don't think it's really worth trading it in and just getting the cash. You might as well trade it in and buy something. But maybe even then, some of the AMD processors, the 6-core or the 8-core processor, will be down in price. They'll be second hand. Pick it up from CEX. You've got the you've got that warranty that you get from CEX anyway, and you can just go out there, buy the 6-core, put it in your PC, and off you go. You don't have to do anything else. And if you've got the money, you could just buy the 6-core and just don't care. You don't worry about the 4-core. You could just build a mini system if you want, or give it to a friend. It's the fact that you don't have to replace the whole system, the whole setup, to go to the next thing. When Coffee Lake comes out, if I want a 6-core processor in my PC, I've got to abandon the setup I've got. For me, if we look at it in terms of equity, because I traded in quite a lot of stuff to get the i7, you're looking at maybe £300 worth of stuff that I have to just sort of fling away. Obviously, I wouldn't fling it away, but I'd have to basically replace the whole system. Short of robbing it of its power supply and a case, I'd be replacing the entire computer to upgrade. And if you don't have to do that, you know, if you can go for a setup that's in a case that you're quite happy with, then I think you're in a position where, you know, you can make the investments in the lower end stuff and be confident that you're going to get mileage out of it, because you've got so much upgradeability in the future, and you can go up to that level. And if these 8 cores really are as good as what people have been saying and what the, you know, what the reviews have been coming out with, then where will we be in, you know, 5-6 years time? You know, like, will AMD stay on top? And if you know, if obviously it's probably not going to get listened to because I'm new on YouTube, probably won't be listening to this until we've already found out. But it's a profound moment for us, really, in computing. You know, with the 1080 Ti coming out, and it's already 40% faster than the other 1080, you know, like, it looks like competition is coming. And so will performance. Performance is going to follow that fast. And I think we'll be moving into a time period where we're going to be able to play games and do just everything. You know, 3 monitors, and maybe even like the basic graphics card will be so good that you're looking at like 2K being the minimum settings. You know, it's a bizarre reality where 1080p is being abandoned, because I feel like 1080p was always going to be there. Like, there was no reason to ever go any higher. And I think it's an interesting stepping ground. You know, like, we're finally getting to the point where computers are good enough at the lowest end that you can just do everything. And software is set up better than it ever was before, with the likes of League of Legends and Dota making it such that, like, there is a force to make you make a game that goes down to 720p and it goes down to the lowest settings, and that you can turn everything off and make the game look as simple as you possibly can, because you've got that got the iGPU in the i7 that can run, as I'm running now, you know, a variety of different games. And I think with those options in place, you've got plenty of space to move. You know, like, you can go as low or as high as you want. And I think if what the experience can be is I can do anything I want with my PC, I can play any game I want, but I'm just limited by the performance of the game. You know, the game is always going to run at 30 frames a second regardless of the resolution I have to run it at. We're moving into that era where computing is more accessible to everyone, and I think better for everyone. Everyone will be able to enjoy things that perhaps at a price range where it wasn't available before. And I have to commend AMD for creating that environment, you know, where you can be that, you know, student who wants, you know, let's put 1050 with the lowest end AMD processor, which is 4 cores, let's say, at £100. The graphics card you can get 1080 I saw for like £87 on Amazon in the UK, and you pair that with a cheap motherboard, you know, 50 quid, so you're looking at 230. You put it in a case, 30 quid more. You could get a cheaper one maybe, but let's say you go 30 quid more, that's 260. Then you go for a power supply, 300, and it's the same price as a Switch, but you've got a whole computer, you know, and something that, in a way, a lot of the components that you will have purchased won't ever really stop being useful. The power supply in my PC will probably outlive every single component in terms of viability, mainly because we're moving ever closer to this reality where components keep reducing the power requirements. Don't need the same kind of wattage power supply as you needed back in the 2000s, and that means that, you know, that 650 watt probably have enough juice for you to do anything you want with it. I know that the lower end AMD board will only support 1 graphics card, but I think a lot of the stuff I've always heard has always indicated that the better way to go with graphics cards is to just get the best one you can afford. So if you don't want to have a 1050 at the lowest end, you know, go a little higher. Go get the 1050 Ti, get your 4GB graphics card, which seems to be the kind of like requirement at this time, and enjoy that, you know, like make the most of it, because I think we're in that, like, for the next 5 years maybe, we're going to be in a period of time where, you know, with a little bit more money each time, you can make your PC much, much better. You know, like, you spend that 300, right? You, let's say, I don't know, a year down the line, you want more, right? It's a big price, because, you know, when you start upgrading the processor, you're really driving the price up. So you go from your £100 processor, you trade it in as CEX, maybe you get like 50 quid trade-in value for it, not much, but it's something, right? The processor that was up before, maybe let's say that one was at 200, it's selling on CEX for maybe 180 or 170, you get 50 quid off that, 120, so you're nearly paying the same amount as the original processor, but you're now getting the 6-core 12-thread version. Pop it in, off you go. And that's what I think the strength of Zen will be, is its impact on beginning people, like the people who are entering the computer market, rather than at the top end. Because at the top end, I just don't see how AMD can compete with the raw fiscal might of Intel, where they can certainly undercut with the cheapest chips that they've got Intel. If they've got a lineup that has so many processors, you know, they can disable the processors, they can do like a whole variety of different things to try and limit the performance to get it down to the price that we're looking at, you know, use the worst silicon going in there and go from there. And I think it's just that opportunity that we're moving into that really makes this the most exciting period for video gaming that I think, and for computing just at large, that I think we've ever experienced. Anyway, there's my rant over. Hopefully, if you did watch it, you enjoyed the 2 parts on, you know, computers and stuff, and you enjoyed me just sort of mindlessly opening some boxes on Duelyst. I will play a game next. And thank you for listening. Bye.